The Justice Department is suing Visa, accusing the credit card business of reaping big profits by shutting out rival payment processors and passing costs to consumers. The Justice Department's complaint says Visa earns a fee for each debit payment it processes, but the company also penalizes its customers when they try to use rival services, which may charge a lower fee. The complaint argues more than 60% of debit transactions in the U.S. now run on Visa's debit network, allowing the financial giant to amass more than $7 billion each year in processing fees. For more, let's bring in CBS News legal contributor and Loyola Law School professor Jessica Levinson. Jessica, the DOJ says Visa is extracting fees that far exceed what it would charge in a competitive market, and those costs end up getting passed on to consumers. I'm a student in your classroom. What does that mean?
So basically what that means is some version of imagine you are a renter and suddenly it becomes really expensive for landlords. We charge landlords a lot more in property taxes. The landlords aren't going to just eat that extra cost. They're going to pass it on to the tenants. In this case, the analogy is true in a different marketplace. And so what the Department of Justice is arguing, just as you laid out, is that Visa is doing two things. Basically, they're making agreements with existing merchants and banks that are unfair to these merchants and banks. They're saying, you better use us and you better use a certain volume of business with us when it comes to these debit transactions. But then they're also, with respect to potential competitors, really boxing them out by, in some ways, making partnership agreements with them and therefore taking them out of the market, preventing them from being competitive players in the market. That means that Visa gets to set these transaction prices. They charge the merchants more than they otherwise could. The merchants aren't going to just take those fees and eat them. Again, they pass it on to the consumers. That's you, that's me. That's 60% of people in the US who make transactions when it comes to these debit transactions on Visa's payment system.
Yeah, my ears perked up today when A.G. Garland was talking because he said Square, and I do a lot of transactions on Square if I'm at the farmer's market buying an ear of corn or a cup of coffee. So essentially, Visa is charging, they're in an agreement with Square, essentially preventing them from being a legitimate player. But also the merchant is paying these fees. And of course, the merchant isn't going to just say, OK, I'm going to lose that 30 cents. Your latte is now 30 cents more expensive.
That's exactly right. Your corn, your spinach, fill in the blank of what happens to us who are lucky enough to have great farmers markets nearby. The vendors themselves can't absorb all these costs and or don't absorb all these costs. So to take a step back, when I talk to my students about antitrust laws and anti-monopoly laws, they're designed to protect consumers. They're designed to protect consumers by saying, let's let competition flourish. Because we know if there's really only one or two players in a marketplace, they get to set the price. They're going to charge as much as they possibly can. And those charges are eventually going to trickle down to us. And so part of this suit is about saying, allow more competitors. That will reduce costs and it will allow consumers to reduce the amount of fees that they ultimately pay either directly or indirectly.
More than 60% of debit transactions in the U.S. conducted using Visa's network. We will continue to follow this lawsuit. Jessica Levinson, thank you.
Thank you.